Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. Now, today's episode is going to be a little bit different than our other episodes, but basically, what I'm wanting to get through to you is how important it is to quit the things that you know you shouldn't be doing. So, I know you usually hear that, quitters never win, but I'm saying quitters always win. It all depends on what you're quitting. If you're quitting something that's going to hurt you or keep you from reaching your goals, that's something you need to quit. So, the whole thing is about reaching your goals, whatever those goals are. And obviously this is about our health goals, whether it's losing your fat, whether it's getting reversing type 2 diabetes or getting rid of hypertension or getting rid of the medications you're on, or there's so many different things that are so much better if you only eat the nutrition that you should eat. Our bodies are amazing. As I say in all my podcasts, they are amazing, but it makes a huge difference if you give your body the nutrients it needs to grow, heal, thrive, or survive versus feeding your body toxins all the time. That it's spending all this time trying to get rid of all this toxic waste, however it can. So it all depends. Your body depends on what you eat as far as how it's going to function. So let's just get right into it. Some of the quit things. This is actually going to be the first of a two-part series because this one's going to be quitters always win because of our thoughts. And the next podcast will be quitters always win because of the things that you need to quit doing. So let's just start right off. Let's talk about food first. Things that you've got to quit thinking if you are planning on making any kind of headway. And we really hope that you do. So the first thing, you have got to quit thinking that eating fat is bad. That is a lie. That's been propagated by the food companies and drug companies for so long. Now be careful. Remember, there are different types of fat. Okay. There are seed oils that's in all the man-made food. Those are horrible. That's not healthy fat. That is toxic, inflammatory fat. Stay away from all the seed oils, all your sunflower oil, soybean oil, canola oil, Crisco, just all of those oils that come from seeds. That's what you want to stay away from because they're very inflammatory. However, if you do eat the healthy fat, like what's in animal meat and your omega-3s, you can get them in avocados, you get them in your animal meat, get them in Greek yogurt, get them in cottage cheese, get them in eggs. That's the kind of fat that you want. That's the kind of fat that is actually extremely healthy for you, not the seed oils. But it's going to be very hard because the food companies have been trying to get us to get away from fat for a long time. So they're still, it amazes me that with all the knowledge we have now, that I still, if you walk down the center aisle of the grocery store, which is the first thing that you should never be doing, is not walking down the food aisles. But when you do, you find out that there is fat and seed oil in everything that they have, and sugar. It is all so inflammatory. So you need to bypass that and quit looking at the things that say low fat or no fat. That makes zero difference. You do want the fat, you just don't want seed oil fat. Okay, so I won't go a lot in this. I have other podcasts about this. So that's the first thing. Quit thinking that eating fat is bad. Quit looking for your no fat, low fat things. Those are actually what's making you bigger. Why are they making you bigger? Because they take the fat out and they add sugar in. And that's actually where the problem is. So that leads us to the next thing. Quit thinking that carbohydrates are good. I know that's what the food pyramid is telling everybody, but remember, the food pyramid was a marketing scheme that the sugar industry came up with and gave to the food industry. It's a scheme. There's no science behind our food pyramid at all. In fact, all the nutrition science says that our food pyramid is the exact opposite of what it should be. You should turn that food pyramid upside down, whack off that whole top where you're supposed to have all the seeds and grains and breads and pastas. That is toxic. That's the worst thing you could eat. However, it makes the food companies lots of money and it makes the drug companies lots of money. So first, quit thinking that fat is bad. Fat is actually extremely healthy for you as long as you're eating the right kind of fat, the animal fats. Quit thinking carbohydrates are good. Carbohydrates that is one of the main root causes of all the diseases we're having. Because remember, a carbohydrate is a plant-based food. All plant-based foods are carbohydrates. And all plant-based foods or carbohydrates have the basic building block of glucose. So if you're having trouble managing your glucose, all you have to do is quit eating it. Your body's not going to produce it on its own if it doesn't need it. It can, But if it doesn't need it, it's not going to do it. And when you do that, you raise your insulin levels. And remember, the three columns of disease is high insulin levels, high sugar levels, and inflammation throughout your body. And all of that comes from the man-made food because it's all plant-based and they have the seed oils and sugar. So quit thinking eating food is fat is bad. Quit thinking that carbohydrates are good because they are not. You also need to quit thinking that you have to eat every 3 to 4 hours, because this is something also that was propagated because everybody realized when you're eating man-made food that's all these carbohydrates, they do not keep you full for very long at all. So you're constantly hungry. So they just said, well, since you're constantly hungry, we'll just tell people that that's good. You should be eating every 3 to 4 hours. It's a lie. The only reason they say that is because they want you to continue to eat their carbohydrate-based food. And what you really want to do is you want to stay away from the carbohydrates and you want to switch over and start eating man or animal products. And when you do, when you eat real meat with real fat, when you eat those stay in your gut for a lot longer. We're talking with carbohydrates that may stay in there for about 2 hours. With fat, it could stay up there 24, 48 hours. So, and meat. So that's why when you eat meat and fat, you do not have to eat every 3 to 4 hours. You should not eat 3 to 4 hours, and you can't eat 3 to 4 hours because it's going to keep you feeling full. So you'll be eating when you're not even hungry. So that's the goal, is only eat maybe once or twice a day. And it's very easy to do when you eat animal-based products because it keeps you feeling full. So the whole thing about eating every 3 to 4 hours, keep your metabolism up, absolute lie. That is not true. And again, remember, there's so many of these lies out there because there are lots of people making money off you being sick. So that's why there's all these lies. The other thing you need to quit thinking is that weight loss is just about eating less calories. That also is propagated by the drug companies and food companies and other companies. But the reason why they say this is because they want you to keep eating their carbohydrate-based food. Protein gets used for building blocks all over your body. Everything you can touch, your muscles, your organs, bones, everything that is based off protein. Fat is all about. Fat is used for everything, for temperature regulation, for protection of your organs, for absorption of the fatty soluble vitamins, your essential fatty acids like omega-3 and your vitamins A, D, E, and K. You need fat for that. Yes, it's also a fantastic energy source. In fact, it's the main energy source that God made us to use until man started telling us we should be using glucose for our energy source. That's only supposed to be fight or flight. Fat is the main energy source that we need. So that's why if they can tell you it's all about calories in, calories out, and all you have to do is just decrease your calories, that is a lie. And I've talked all about this in podcast number 4. It's called "It Is Not Eat Less Calories and Exercise More." The only reason they say that is because that's all the carbohydrates is used for. That's all glucose used for is energy. That's all it's used for. Okay. And it's not very good at that. And that's why it's quick, but it's not a very good burn. And that's why we don't store very much in our body, but we have fat all over our bodies because carbohydrates are not supposed to be used for that. But if they tell everybody this is a calorie in or calorie out, they can tell you to keep eating their man-made food and just eat less of it, which you cannot do because their food is made, it's constructed, it's chemically made. They go through studies trying to see how to get you more hungry. How can we have you continuously eat the same stuff over and over and over again? So for them to say that you can't just eat one chip, you can't just eat but one, or all you need to do is decrease your calories, it's evil. That's actually evil because they give you stuff that makes sure that you are constantly hungry. And then you tell you it's your fault because you're eating too much and that's why you're hungry. So don't fall for that. It is not to eat less calories if you want to lose weight. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do change the type of food you eat to the type that keep your insulin levels low and to the type that keeps you feeling full for long periods of time, and for the type of food that actually fights inflammation instead of causes inflammation. So that's where, again, it is not a calorie is a calorie. That is a lie that's been propagated by the people who are making money off sick people. Now, the next thing, quit thinking that you can never eat sweet or unhealthy food again. That's not true. My wife and I, we will eat bad stuff every now and then too. The difference is, where are you in your health path? If you're 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 pounds overweight, you need to be more strict. You really need to kind of stay totally away from everybody needs to stay away from animal or man-made food, but you really need to stay away from the plants that grow underneath the ground. If you want some plants, the green leafy plants that grow above the ground, that's fine. If you want just a little bit of fruit, that's fine. Or if you don't want any of that, that's perfectly fine too. You don't need any of that. That's just if you want to. However, the less glucose you put in your mouth, which means the less carbohydrates you put in your mouth, which means the less animal or plants that you put in your mouth, the more your glucose is going to stay low, and the more your insulin is going to stay low, and the more your inflammation is going to stay low. So if you have a lot of weight to lose, I would go strictly keep away from any plants that grow below the ground, and definitely all man-made food. But if you're healthy, if you're pretty healthy and you're walking all the time and you've got a good lean body mass and everything, you can eat what you can go ahead and eat. If you lift weights, if you do resistance training and you get good muscles and you get out there and you can lift and build more muscles, you're going to be able to have more cells that produce energy and burn energy. So that type of person will be able to eat more. So it kind of depends on where you are in your health field as far as how much leeway you can give yourself as far as what you eat. But once you lose your weight and you get to the healthy weight that you want to be, if you want to have some treats every now and then, that's not going to hurt you. So if you can eat perfectly healthy for 90 to 95% of the time that you eat, don't worry about the other one. So all I'm saying is if you're unhealthy and we're telling you not to eat all these things that you love, that's just going to be until you get the fat off your body, get feeling better again, get off the medications, and then you can start lightening up on what you want to eat. So you don't have to say goodbye to your favorite food forever. Just a period until you reach your next goal. The other thing is that you need to quit thinking is that you are not a carbohydrate. Don't think that you are not a carbohydrate addict, because most of us are. And this is by design. The chemical companies, the food companies, they have constructed their food to make us literally, physically, chemically addicted to their food. This is very well known. That's what they've done because they want us addicted. So you are addicted. And so you do need to treat it like an addiction. If you're eating sweets all the time, if you're eating these carbs all the time, if when you go and you look down your plate and you try to pick out the protein and you see a little sliver in the corner of your plate and the rest of it has all plant-based foods, you are carbohydrate addicted. And that's how most of us are. So you have to treat it just like an alcohol addiction. You're not going to be able to do this. You're going to have to try to switch your thoughts. And that's what this whole thing is, switch your thoughts. And we've done other podcasts on this, but switch your thoughts from thinking that carbohydrates are good and fat is bad, and swap it around and say carbohydrates are bad and fat is good. And when you start doing that, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot easier time getting over your carbohydrate addiction. And again, we've talked about this in past podcasts, all about addiction. So now the next one, quit thinking. Quit thinking every time you feel like you're hungry, it means you need to eat something. That's not true. A lot of times people feel hungry just because they're used to eating all these carbohydrates all day long. It doesn't stay in their stomach very long. So they have to eat about every 3 to 4 hours or they're going to get low blood sugar or they're going to feel cranky or tired or whatever, because that's what happens when you eat carbohydrates. However, what happens is you find out that since you eat every 3 to 4 hours, now you've got a routine. Now you have a habit. So you think you have to eat every 3 to 4 hours. And that's one of the biggest things when people start switching over to the healthy diets like keto or carnivore, or really just the natural food, the God-made food, real meat, real fruit, real vegetables. When people start switching over to that, they still think that they're supposed to be eating every 3 to 4 hours. And so they're eating all this protein and fat every 3 to 4 hours, and they can't do it. Their stomachs won't hold it. That's because when you eat that way, you don't have to eat every 3 to 4 hours. With carbohydrates, you do. So that's why they say that. So when your stomach feels hungry, it's not necessarily because your food is your stomach needing nutrients. It may be needing water. It may be just a habit and you're not really hungry. And if you can get your mind off it and go do something else, the hunger will go away. So that'll let you know that hunger, just because your stomach makes you feel like you're hungry, doesn't mean you truly are. So try things like that. Go for a walk. Go take care of a project. Do something to get your mind off of it. Drink water. Drink unsweet coffee or unsweet tea. And if you get your mind off it, a lot of time you're going to find out that that hunger went away, and then you can go back about your day. And then the last one, as far as food, you got to quit thinking that fructose is fine to eat. I know the food companies are telling you, oh, this high fructose corn syrup is so much better than sugar, and you need all this fructose and eat all the fruit you need because fructose isn't bad. Horrible lie. Fructose is poison. Fructose is that's the sugar that's in a lot of the fruits. It's also half of table sugar. So table sugar, remember, is sucrose. That's 50% glucose and 50% fructose. Fructose is toxic. So anytime you eat anything with high fructose corn syrup or sugar, you're putting toxins in your body. So please be aware of that and stay away from the sugar. And that's also why you really want to decrease the amount of fruit that you actually eat, because fructose is not healthy. It's actually toxic for your body. So again, if you want to eat more, learn more about this, episode number 4 is it's not about eat less calories and exercise more. And I'll kind of explain that. So that was the quick things that we need you to quit thinking as far as food goes. Now, as far as exercise, what things do people think right now that they need to quit thinking if they're going to be healthy? The first one is quit thinking that doing cardio is going to burn your fat out of your fat cells. That is not true. People think, oh my gosh, I've eaten too much, I'm going to go run. And I did a whole podcast on this, is episode number 118, called Do You Have to Exercise in Order to Lose Weight? But just a real quick synopsis of what I was talking about is your body will go through its energy source in a certain level. It's going to take all the energy out of the blood first, because that's quick access energy. They don't have to do anything for it. Then it's going to take energy out of your storage cells. Okay. So what it's going to do is first, it's going to take glucose out of your blood, because glucose is a very quick, easy burn. And then it's going to take the fat out of your blood cell or out of your bloodstream, because that's already in there. And now you can burn that. When that's gone, now it's going to go to your storage. So the first thing it's going to go to is your glucose storage, because that's the one that is supposed to be used for your fight or flight. That's why you had that little bitty bit, but you can access it very quickly. So you burn through your glucose stores, and then you finally get to your fat stores. By the time you got to your fat stores, you are not going to burn up anywhere near the calories by doing any kind of cardio, unless you're doing a long marathon. That's the only time that you may be getting to the fat stores in your fat cells. All you're doing when you're doing cardio, you're burning the glucose and the fat out of your blood. And really, that's about it. If you do cardio for real long or for hard, you might get into a little bit of your glucose storage, but basically, you're never going to get into your fat storage. That's not how you lose weight. The only way to lose weight, one way, only way, is to get your insulin levels low. There's only one thing that makes you store fat, and there's only one thing that makes you burn your fat for energy, and that is insulin. High insulin causes you to store fat. Low insulin causes you to burn fat. So what makes your insulin high? Glucose. Why does your glucose go high? Because you're eating carbohydrates, which are plant-based foods that are based off glucose. If you stick to animal meat and animal fat, your insulin levels do not go up. They stay low. So you continuously burn the fat out of your fat cells. It does not have anything to do with working out, exercise at all. Okay. Now, if you're resistance training, if you're lifting heavy weights and you're actually building muscle, that will help keep you on track, and that will help burn energy. But that's not what we're pushing here. We firmly believe in exercise, resistance training, and a little bit of cardio if you want to. However, if you are extremely obese and you've never worked out before, this is not the time to start doing that. Okay. If you listen to that podcast, it'll explain all about that, about why this isn't the time to start an exercise program. The other thing is quit thinking that you have to exercise to lose fat. Just like we said, you don't have to exercise. It doesn't have to do with the cardio. It doesn't have to do with the resistance training. It has to do with keeping your insulin levels low. Now, if all your meals are going towards keeping your insulin levels low, so you're already burning your fat for your energy source, now that's a whole different ball game. Because once you are just normally walking through your day, burning your fat for your energy source, if you do an activity like a run or a lift, and you're doing it before you eat, you will continue to burn the fat out of your fat cells. So that is the case, that exercise will help you burn fat out of your fat cells. But if you're eating carbohydrates now and your insulin levels are high, it's not going to work. It all works together when you do everything healthy. when you eat healthy with real animal meat, real animal fat, keep your insulin levels low, and then you're exercising, you're already burning your fat. And now you just burn more fat. So that's the way you want to do it. But if you're eating carbohydrates, that is not going to do it. So don't exercise and think that you're going to lose weight. All you can do is change the type of food that you eat. And also, when it comes to this, also quit thinking that fat is only on the outside of your body. People think of fat as how they look. That has nothing to do with it. Okay. The fat on the outside of your body, that's actually good. Your good, healthy fat. That's the fat that your body can actually use for energy if you give it the chance. And the only way you can give it a chance to use that fat for its energy source and quit stacking it on, storing it all over your body is to, again, keep your insulin levels low. So that way you will. Okay. You'll burn the fat out of your fat cells. However, the fat that you have to worry about is the fat that's not in your fat cells, and it's all around your internal organ. It's called visceral fat because those are your visceral organs, the organs that are inside your belly. That is where you do not want fat. That's where all the damage, that's where all the diseases that we get. You get heart disease, brain disease, kidney disease, liver disease, type 2 diabetes. I mean, you get diseases all over the place just because we have eaten so many plant-based foods, so many carbohydrates, that we put so much insulin in our system and put so much fat in our fat cells that it can't hold anymore and starts doing it around our organs. So don't think of fat just around the outside. That's fine. That can be taken care of. It's the fat around your organs that's causing the damage you have to be careful of. And good thing to know is you do the exact same thing. If you quit eating all this plant-based food and definitely all this man-made food and start eating more of an animal-based meals, what you're going to find is that your body, it doesn't want insulin around your organs either. So it's going to start taking the fat away from your organs and burning that first before it starts burning the fat that you see around the outside. So a lot of times if you're going through and you're not seeing any changes in fat on the outside, it's because you're changing the fat on the inside. As long as you're eating, keep your insulin levels low, you can be pretty much assured that you're eating the fat away from your fat cells. And that's always going to be a good thing. Now, as far as medical things, and just so you know, we've done a course. We put together 3 digital courses. If you don't know how to do any of this, there's 3 different digital courses that we came up with, and one of then they're video courses. So we have a small course; it's only 15 videos long, and you can get that one. And then we have another course that's 50 videos long, and it just 10 to 15 minute videos, and then it's going to walk you through how you can switch over from being a carbohydrate burner over to being a fat burner and get your body healthy. And then we have another course that if you actually want a one-on-one with us, we'll give you 8 different one-on-one 1-hour sessions with us. You can ask us anything you want. We have that course also. So if you're interested in doing a digital course, something like that, all you got to do is go in the show notes down before, and you'll see one for a weight loss solutions chat. It's just a free 15-minute call. Click on that line, and then that'll send you my calendar, and we can set up a talk, or we can discuss and see if you think one of these courses might help you out along the way. And if so, which one? So just go down below, see weight loss solutions chat, and just click on that link and get on our calendar. But anyway, I just want to make sure you said that I said that before I get too far gone here. Okay, the next thing I want you to quit thinking about, and this is all the medical things, I want you to seriously quit thinking that medications are making you healthier. When you take medications, they are not healing anything. For the majority of the part, 90% of the time, they're not healing anything. All they're doing is treating symptoms. And just like blood pressure, that's why there's so many different things for blood pressure, because you can hit it from all different ways. But your blood pressure keeps getting worse and worse because you don't take care of the root cause. That's the same with obesity. That's the same with everything. You've got to take care of the root cause. And with most of these, it's because you're putting toxins in your mouth instead of nutrients. And that's the way we've been told. We've been told that's the healthy thing. This is not your fault, but it is something that I want to make you aware of. And once you're aware of it, now it's going to be your responsibility to quit eating that food and you can get healthy again. Okay. So even though it's not your fault, it is your responsibility once you know the difference between these. But medications, again, most medications are only symptomatic relief. When you change your nutrition, chances are you get off medications. Because if you think that you're on medications and you think you're healthy, that's like taking out a loan and thinking that you're rich. It doesn't work that way. Okay. The only way to get yourself healthy is to get all the fat off you, get the medications out of your body, and start eating healthy. And again, that goes back to animal-based meat foods. So quit getting the high cholesterol is what's causing hardening of the arteries and cardiovascular disease. It is not high cholesterol. It is not high LDLs. LDLs really don't, basically, they don't have anything to do with it at all. There are people who are extremely healthy and they have very high LDLs. And we're talking, close to 400. It's not your LDLs that are bad. It's your triglycerides. And triglycerides are because you eat too many carbohydrates. When you eat a lot of carbohydrates, all that excess glucose gets turned into triglycerides. So if your triglycerides are high, you need to decrease or eliminate your carbohydrates, which means your plant-based foods. Okay. And again, we're talking about mainly man-made food, but also be careful with your God-made food, your fruits and your vegetables too, and stick to the ones that don't have very much glucose in them. But cholesterol never, ever, ever has it been shown that high LDLs cause cardiovascular disease. None of those studies have ever proven that. It's your triglycerides, it's having low HDLs, and the way you increase your HDLs is you increase your fat intake that you eat, because it's the fat that you eat and the cholesterol that you eat that's in your gut that actually makes your HDLs go up, because your HDLs are actually produced in the gut. So it needs this cholesterol to produce that. So do not think that eating fat is bad. Do not think that carbohydrates are good, because those two things are the exact opposite. The other thing, remember, don't quit thinking that things like obesity and diabetes and high blood pressure and heart attacks and kidney failure and fatty liver disease and Alzheimer's disease and cancer and skin issues, nail issues, fertility issues, PCOS, erectile dysfunction. Quit thinking that those are all just individual things that happen to our bodies, because all of those, the drug companies have drugs to help treat those symptoms. But the fact is, all of that comes from the exact same root cause: poor nutrition. You're giving your body way too much glucose, way too much glucose. Remember, back in 65, we ate an average of 2 teaspoons of sugar per person per day. And now it's over 65 teaspoons of sugar per person per day that we're eating, because of all this crud that these food manufacturers are feeding us, or that you're eating. Actually, they're not feeding us. You're actually choosing. You're actually going to the store, buying this with your hard-earned money, and going home and eating it, and then turn around and going and getting all the medications that you're going to have to take care of what's going on because of the type of food you're eating. Okay. So food companies aren't forcing you to eat this. They're just advertising everywhere that you should. But now I hope that you know better. So just remember, all those disease states, those are not individual disease states. That is from keeping your insulin levels too high for too long, putting inflammation in your body constantly. And then finally, the last thing that's going to happen after decades of having your insulin levels too high is now it can't handle your glucose, and your glucose starts going up. Okay. So if you have high glucose, you're late in the game. A lot of damage has already been happening to your organs inside, but you're not too late if the damage hasn't gone too far. So focus on keeping your insulin levels low with all the foods that you eat, and that'll help take care of all of these other disease states that can be reversed, even though you're told that they can't. And also quit thinking that, which I've already said, quit thinking that diabetes is a problem of too high a blood glucose. That is a symptom. Diabetes is a problem of insulin resistance. You've been eating all this glucose, all this animal-based foods or plant-based foods for so long that you're keeping your insulin levels constantly high for 10, 20, 30 years before you actually start seeing the glucose go up. So you've had type 2 diabetes. You've been able to produce enough insulin to take care of it. And that's a big difference. You can't just do a glucose reading and say, oh, you're diabetic, or oh, you're not. You have to see what is your insulin levels doing, and that's going to tell you way before high glucose is ever going to be reported. But that's something you're going to have to ask for, because most doctors don't do insulin tests, because the drug companies don't tell them to do insulin tests, because they want to treat you for their blood glucose, because they have drugs to get your blood glucose down. But the way they work is by increasing your insulin. So it actually makes diabetes worse. Okay. So just be careful of what's going on. Okay. Next thing, quit thinking. These are thoughts that you need to quit thinking. Quit thinking that you cannot change your thoughts. And we've had several podcasts over this. Your thought, you have 100% control over changing your thoughts. And remember how important this is, because your thoughts create your feelings, those create your actions, and those create your results. So if you don't like your results, the first thing you do is change your thoughts. And that's what one of the big thoughts you can change is quit thinking that sugar tastes great and you nothing tastes good unless it's sweet. That one thought is what's killing not just America, but the entire world. If you don't like something because it tastes sweet, you are definitely carbohydrate addicted, and this will come back to be very, very hard on your body in the future, and be very, very willing to accept that you're going to be going to the doctor all the time and the hospitals all the time and on all kinds of medications. So if you change that one thought away from, oh, it doesn't taste good unless it's sweet, say, oh, no, that tastes sweet. Sweetness is a toxin. That's a poison I'm putting in my body, and I'm not putting that in my body. So if you change your thought to say not to say sugar is poison, then you're going to change your actions. Well, that's poison. Not only am I not going to give it to me, but I'm not going to give it to my child either. So now you've changed your actions. Okay. Well, you've changed your feelings. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want that in my body. I don't want any poison in my body, and I don't want my kids. So it changes your feelings. Then it changes your action where you don't buy it. And then that's going to change your results to now you're going to start getting healthier. You're going to lose your weight. You're going to start feeling better. You're going to have more energy, start thinking clearly. You're not going to be hungry all the time. And once you have that result, now you know the type of thought process you have to keep getting that same result. Okay. So please remember, you can change your thoughts. And if you're doing anything bad, change your thought is the first thing that you have to do. And quit thinking that you have no control over your health. You have total control of your health, and it all goes from what you buy. Just because the food companies are are advertising all their food doesn't mean you have to eat it. And if you don't eat their food, then you're not going to have to add all these drugs that the drug manufacturers are trying to get you to drive, because that's how they work. That's how the drug companies work. If you haven't noticed, when they go through their commercials, first they make a little bitty condition look like it's a major horrible condition, and your life is going to be horrible unless you take their drug. But please shut your eyes and keep listening. What really happens is your life is going to be horrible if you do take that drug, because look at all the adverse effects that it has. Because drugs don't usually only fix one tiny thing in your body, and it messes up everything else. That's why there's so many adverse effects. Just like these GLP-1 inhibitors, they have over 70 different adverse effects that people are seeing. Horrible, different types of cancer, losing their stomach, losing their intestines, losing their colon. Just everything. It's absolutely horrible what's going on with this, but they keep on selling it. So anyway, don't think you don't have any control over your life, because you do. You're the one who purchased it. So purchase food from a farmer and from a local farmers markets. That's how you vote. Buy your food there, give them your money, and quit giving it to the food companies, or I guarantee you're also going to be giving it to the drug companies as well. Also, you need to quit thinking that if you failed trying to get healthy in the past, you're going to fail again. That's not true. And that's why we really want to help you by you clicking on the chat below, and we can talk to you about what different things you can do. And chances are you did not lose weight before because you did not do it correctly. You weren't giving your body the nutrients it needs. And also by doing that, you're keeping your insulin levels low, so you burn the fat. If you've been going by what these other people are saying, or, stay away from meat, stay away from fats, stay away from cholesterol, stay away from all these antibody-based products. You need to eat our food. You just need to eat less of it. If that's the kind of diet you're on, you're right. You're going to get worse and worse, and you're more and more obese, because that's the kind of diet that makes people more obese, which means you get to buy the drugs, more drugs, and you get to make the drug companies a lot more rich. Also, quit saying negative things about yourself. People say negative things about themselves all the time, and you have no idea how detrimental that is. There's no reason you should walk by a mirror and say, God, look how fat I am. I'm just fat and stupid and lazy. And it's just crazy what I hear people say about themselves. If you think that there's something wrong, if you really do think, just say you think you're fat. Just say that it. Sit down and write down, why do you think you're fat? And then what are some steps that you can do towards getting rid of that fat? If that's what's really the main thing that's worrying about you, figure out a plan and go with a plan, and just take it day by day, just step by step. And as long as you have a plan and you're working on step by step, you're going to get momentum, knowing that you can do this. This was easy. And again, we've done podcasts on this, so I'm not going to wear it out. but tall, just very small steps in the right direction over and over and over again will give you momentum and start making you feel proud about yourself. And hopefully that's going to get rid of the negative feelings that you tell yourself. Once you start thinking negative feelings about yourself, you're already losing. You're already getting ready to go back to your same old ways. And again, we can help you through all this with our courses if you want us to. And then also quit thinking that your spouse isn't supportive of you. Your spouse, everybody goes through their own step. Everybody has their own why about why they want to get in shape. Just because your spouse doesn't want to be with you as you try to get healthier, don't worry. Just keep on doing it. Don't be mad at him. Don't be talking to him about it. I mean, if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. But in general, what we've seen is that when people tend to start, their spouses start doing it, is after they've seen that you're actually doing it. Your weight is actually coming down. You're actually getting off those medications. You're actually not walking with a cane anymore. You're actually able to go upstairs now. You actually have more energy. When they see that you have turned your health around, that's when and they may or may not. They may still not care. They may have other things on their mind, but you've done all you can do, and it's going to be up to them to come to their own way. The last thing you do is be yelling at them and getting on to them, saying they need to quit doing what they're doing and come and do what you're doing. That's never going to go anywhere. They will. You just focus on yourself, and the rest will come. So, and again, we talked about this in podcast 88 about mindful eating for weight loss, where you actually have to think before so you know exactly what to do to lose weight. And I forgot to say back also on the medical, I think I did, but episode number 8, how excessive carbohydrate intake causes organ failure. That's another one that if you want to learn more about how our organs are being damaged by all this ultra processed food, listen to episode 8. Okay. Now, and then the last thing we're going to talk about is health. Quit thinking that sun is not important. Quit thinking that moving your body, walking is not important. Quit thinking that water is not important. Those 3 things are extremely important. You've got to get out in the sun, and not with sunscreen, That's just more chemicals that you're putting on your body to burn yourself or to absorb into your skin. It's keeping all the extremely healthy rays of sun that are coming to you. That's how you get your vitamin D. That's how you get your ultraviolet rays. That's how you get your red rays. All the light and things that our body needs, and all of the world, all the plants and animals, we all need the sun. We get great things from the sun. If you put all the sunscreen on you, now you've just totally run that, and now you're putting chemicals in your body that can make things worse. So play the sun smart. At the first part of the summer, just kind of get out a little bit. Don't be out for very long. You can kind of start getting a little bit redder when you get warm, come back in, wait till the next day, go back out again. And eventually you're going to start building up your tolerance, your skin, you're going to start getting a tan, and you'll be able to stay out longer and longer. So you don't go out in the sun and spend hours in the sun the first time you're out and get burned. No, that is not the smart way to do it. You got to be smart, just kind of wean yourself into it. And the whole goal is never to have to wear sunscreen, because yes, sun can cause cancer if you're out in it and you're getting burned in it all the time. Okay. So don't go out and be burned all the time. However, all these chemicals that are in these sunscreens can also cause all kinds of adverse effects in your body as well. Same thing with water. We've already talked about water so much, so important. Drink half your weight in pounds. Half your weight in pounds is the number of ounces of water you should be drinking every day. We've got to keep hydrated. We use water for everything, and it's so important that you do that. And that's also going to help you when you're out in the sun also. You have to make sure you're well hydrated so you can sweat if you're starting to get too warm. And sleep. Sleep is so important. And I did a whole podcast on sleep. But you really do need at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And your body does so much healing through that time. So if you're not getting that quality sleep, your body's not getting the healing, and you're walking around dazed and tired and feeling horrible the next day. Okay. It just keeps going. So prioritize sleep, prioritize water, prioritize movement. And so that's all I've got today. I know that was long, but there's a lot of stuff that we think our thoughts are correct. Remember, most of the things that we think are not true. So you just have to figure which thoughts are actually keeping you from doing what you want to do, and rewrite that thought. Write that in a different way. Instead of saying sugar tastes good, say sugar is poison, and then watch what happens with your feelings, your actions, and results after you do that. So That's all I've got right now. Remember, if you want to get a hold of us, click on the Weight Loss Solutions chat down below. Get on my calendar. We'll have a 15-minute quick talk, just where you are, and see if one of our digital programs may be right for you. So that's all I have. Have a fantastic weekend. And as always, make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life.